Good evening, Mrs. Morgan. I truly hope that you're doing well. I think that the textbook that we use for this class, it's a very interesting book and can be considered a cornerstone for any future professional helper. I decided to order it so I'll have the printed version and I can go back to certain information in the future whenever I need to. The book abounds in takeaways, like every single page is extremely interesting and rich in knowledge. For example, in chapter 3 is the relationship between a client and the professional helper is debated, and this relationship is seen as a working alliance and a partnership where both the helper and the client have to co-discover and co-develop the right relationship. Of course, the question would be, what is a right relationship? I think that a constructive and a healthy relationship between a professional helper and the client is an interaction that is supported by a client-centered relational framework where the client's interests are put first. And this kind of relationship has two core purposes. The first one would be to help the client manage problem situations, and the second main purpose is help the client to discover and rediscover his or her strength and make decisions that are life enhancing. That will be considered a successful path. Any healthy relationship should be seen as a forum for relearning, and an effective social worker models attitudes and behaviors. But the client needs to understand that in fact he occupies the driver's seat, and he is the one who ultimately will design and engineer his own life and destiny. A constructive approach of the helping alliance will promote self-responsibility, meaning that we should help the client to develop and use self-efficacy. And what the author debates is the fact that there are 8 empowerment-based norms that promote self-efficacy. The first one should be that as a professional helper, our premise should be that clients can change if they choose to. And the helper's basic attitude should be that the clients do have the resources both to engage in the process and be present and in that process, in the helping process, and have the trust that the client can manage his life or her life effectively. So I guess the helper has to remind the client that the resources are there, but they are, for some reasons, they are either blocked or unused, and regardless, the resources are available, and they just need to be identified, freed, and cultivated. Another principle is the fact that we shouldn't see clients as victims. Putting someone through a victimizing situation or circumstance and defining yourself as a victim, this is a situation that should be avoided. Just as I tell my son every now and then when he's frustrated with change or hardship, I try to tell him and that this is how we learn in life. In fact, we don't learn through success. We learn through hardship, and this is how we grow. So once we access our inner resources, we do grow and we do gain more control of our lives. And this is something that a social worker or a professional helper should remind any client who goes through hardship and somehow he or she feels weakened or powerless. Another future would be not to see the clients being over fragile. Just as brutalizing clients is inefficient, pampering them too much wouldn't serve their interests, in fact. And the author emphasizes an interesting aspect of the helping process, how some therapists shy away from doing more than listening. Another norm that it's approached is not to be fooled by a client's appearance, and meaning that I suppose it's more effective and more constructive to empathize and highlight the positive changes in someone's life instead of kind of victimizing that person and see just the negative parts of their situation. This kind of approach will encourage the client's sense of personal agency and makes the client more conscious and responsible about his goals and the changes that needs to be done. Another characteristic that we should keep in mind is that the client has to see the working sessions, the helping sessions, as working sessions. So in order for this relationship to work efficiently, the client needs to adopt and employ like a work ethic. He needs to be responsible, and the client needs to be involved. There are all these changes that are about to come. The changes need to be explored, find what kind of change is needed in fact, and what kind of change is in the client's interest. Sometimes we need to create programs of constructive change and engage the client in change pilot projects, and the client has to deal with the obstacles that cause change, that generate change. The way I see it is that counseling sometimes look like a demolishing process. Like you demolish yourself and you rebuild yourself piece by piece, hoping and working to find your best version. Just as I said earlier, there is the client needs to learn and employ a work ethic that will make the counseling process thrive. Another feature of this process is that a social worker and a therapist or any professional helper is he or she, a professional helper, is a coach and a consultant to clients, and with a variety of roles. So they listen, they collect data. Once the data is collected, they need to report the observations. Another role will be teaching and training. Therapist obviously provides support, challenges the client and puts the client through this not so pampering anymore situations, like new situations that force you to create new scenarios and strategies to improve your life. Another role is advising, you offering suggestions, of course, and advocating for somebody's causes. The author talks about the the cultural differences. Um, this is a subject that it's pretty sensitive to me because growing up in a different cultural and socio-economical context, I was at some point doubting my abilities to be able to help someone who is so different than me. And as a professional helper, we gotta keep in mind that people are we are different. We are extremely different, and we see self responsibility and agency. We can see it extremely different, and some people might consider going into therapy as a sign of weakness, and they might feel emotions like guilt or shame and delay the whole process, or delay to the point where they deal with a crisis, and obviously they need to manage it at that point. Another takeaway that caught my interest is the economics of helping. I think any an efficient helper has to consider that a certain time frame has to be established when it comes to for change to occur, and keep in mind that a helping process can be psychologically and financially expensive, and for this reason, both the professional helper and the client have to add value to the counseling process. Any helping process is considered successful if it generates life-enhancing outcomes, meaning outcomes with impact that are going to show some that are going to show that the client's life has bettered. And as I said, value value should be added by both partners of this alliance, and as they work as a team, the counselor should wonder if the helping process is worthy, and if every interaction with the client adds value to the client's progress. At the same time, the client should be aware of the quality of his or her participation, and honestly assess the sessions, and conclude if he or she is on the right path, and if the decisional approaches that they came to are clear enough, and if they are fruitful. When it comes to adding value to the counseling process, the author describes 7 principles of it. in the text, out of all these seven, the first one is the one that caught my attention. But the way I see it, this should be the second one, because the first one, when it comes to dealing with the people that go through hardship, I think the first one should be the assessment of the existence of crisis, and we should start with that and address that first. So the second principle that caught my attention was is questioning yourself as a professional helper if the process should be continued, if the process is called for or not. And I found this principle kind of shocking, because in my mind as a future social worker, helping is mandatory. It's like you are somehow so involved in this process and so committed that you will die with your client there. You won't give up until you give up and give in until you succeed. And in my mind, this is the purpose of training in this field. It's like we're supposed to adopt this optimistic and helpful demeanor and permanent concerned attitude about the client's well-being, and help the person in need regardless of the problem's layout. So I've seen it as a permanent, it's like we have to display this permanent goodwill flag, like and a non-judgmental attitude, and a client-centered stance, just because they are human beings. But I didn't realize, and that's why this this point of view was kind of shocking for me. I mean, there is an interesting comparison, an analogy done in the text, and it seems that just as in any other profession, there is we can suffer from they call it the law of the instrument, and the analogy that the author made is about the moment you give a child a hammer, guess what the child is going to do? That child is going to use the hammer. It's going to be a very interesting and useful tool, and the child will start punching everything. So just I mean, the analogy that the author makes is that we are constantly seeing problems somewhere. So there is a task that we need to follow, and a professional helper will always be concerned and disclose problems everywhere. And this kind of approach, it is exhausting and overwhelming. It's like somehow I was adopting a savior's behavior. Reading about this approach made me realize how this kind of approach, can be how it relates to a troubled romantic relationship. Like, just as a person who is not happy in a romantic relationship, the helper as well, the professional helper, has to start putting questions and be concerned if some changes need to be done, or sometimes, very often, inaction is action as well. So so attaching this kind of approach to a troubled romantic relationship, and it reveals how some general standards are applicable to any human connection. So just as I think any human interaction should be should have some rules, and some norms should be respected. And one of the first things is, even when we talk about the helper and client relationship, is that you can't help someone if that the other person doesn't want to be helped. And any human interaction is based on communication. It's like a system that asks for constant involvement from all the participants. And resources will be wasted if the involvement isn't balanced. And I just realized that a counselor or a professional helper doesn't have like a magic pill or a wand to use to better the other person's life. So from this point of view, there is a possibility of no treatment option, in fact. And this approach, in fact, generates a number of useful things, like outcomes, as resources won't be wasted anymore. Resources like money, time, energy, effort. Interrupting sessions or interrupting dialogue that are useless, and sometimes even can be damaging, offers the client a pause to realize what work needs to be done to install constructive change. So it's like taking a break where you look for answers and you look for change inside yourself. You don't want any outside influence. and stopping the treatment and stopping the dialogue, I guess, allows that. This can be seen as providing a breather period to where you summarize the outcomes of previous treatments and discover if the lack of treatment is effective or detrimental. And another aspect that is very interesting, it's sometimes if some people just is in a relationship, if the other person is not very involved, when you take a break, all the games stop and nobody plays games anymore with another, and this provides motivation as well for the person who is troubled to find help in their own rhythm. And why not, this in fact is a way to develop and build self-sufficiency, which is wonderful. There are some guidelines to consider if the treatment is fruitful and right, if it's the right treatment. And the questions will be, am I the right person at the right time for this person's particular issues? Because sometimes maybe you are not compatible with the other person, like your mentalities, your values are so different that you might not be the right person that can help that person. A professional helper has to ask if there is something else that is needed for change to occur, or for the strategies that are adopted to generate the efficient outcomes. And another guideline that should be considered is approaching and adding other form of treatments or other interventions that would be useful to the helping process. And as well, at the beginning of the counseling process, we should assess the client's general well-being, and at a certain time we can compare the levels of well-being and observe if there is progress or not. These are some of the takeaways that came through my mind right now, and just as I said, the book is extremely interesting. It's a book that we need to have in this field for sure. Thank you.